So to get started, my name is Meredith Carter. I'm the Extension Program Specialist for 4-H Youth Development in District 11. And so I'm really excited to be able to join y'all this evening. And we're really thrilled to be able to put together a training, especially during some unprecedented times. We know that we are living in times that have never been experienced before. And so we really feel like we wanted to be able to do this for you as our volunteers and leaders in District 11 to make sure that you have the tools that you need to lead your club successfully. And so I certainly didn't do this alone. I have a team of agents that have helped me today. And so we want to go through and introduce them. And as we introduce our sections, I will introduce them and then we will turn it over to them. So through today, we want you to learn a variety of different things, but really we want this to be a refresher in some ways, but we also want you to learn about some new resources that we have available. And so we want you to become more comfortable with the resources that we have on the Texas 4-H website. We want you to understand the roles and responsibilities as a club manager, the 4 parts to a 4-H club meeting, in understanding financial responsibility and how we respond during COVID-19. You're going to learn more about 4-H projects and new ideas for your 4-H club meetings and how to keep them fresh and interactive and exciting. So to get started, I want to introduce Mr. Kyle McManus. Kyle is the County Extension Agent for 4-H Youth Development in Nueces County. And he today is going to visit with you on a variety of topics, but the first topics he's going to visit with you on is the expectations and the roles and responsibilities of as a club manager and what that looks like and what it means. And so
I hadn't went to my first slide, so let me know, Meredith, if you see that or not.
Yes, I can see it. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So I won't be able to see comments and questions and whatnot. We do have some folks monitoring the chat. So I can just, as we're sharing screens, I can just see my screen. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for joining us this evening. I'm going to get kicked off with some roles and responsibilities, but as we go through here, please don't feel like you got to wait until the end. If you want some clarity, either the presenter or Meredith as our 4-H specialist, someone will do our best to answer that question as we go along. So by all means, please ask the questions as we go along, and that way either didn't forget it or you had to wait till the very end. So again, as roles and responsibilities are concerned, there's a document that I've kind of got shared on the screen, and I've pulled some highlights of that. Everything that I referenced this evening, I'll give you a website here soon where you can find that. But under roles and responsibilities with club management, it is imperative that you build a relationship with your county extension agent. You've got to have that relationship with them. It doesn't have to be every day wearing each other out, but you've got to know about each other, where they are. You've got, and it starts with getting their approval. Just because you want to run a club or manage a club, you've got to make sure you have a good working relationship with that county extension agent. And so you've got to develop a relationship with them, and it's extremely important to do so. A great line of communication. I've got a lot of club managers in Nueces County that some will call or text me once a month. Some check with me weekly, but it all depends on personalities and what is required of them in their club. But you've got to have a good line of communication, and it's going to vary from club to club and size to size and demand. But you've got to have a great line of communication working with that agent. You can't just function all year long and think it's going to be productive if you never touch base with your county agent, you never have a relationship with them. There's some requirements as a club manager that you're going to have to meet, and I've highlighted a few of the basic ones in this document. It has more details, but real important ones. There's a minimum age of 18 years of age or older, background screening for everybody, and there's some trainings that you've got to go through. Those are online type trainings, and I get managers that will ask, oh, I've done this, do I have to do it again? And the answer is simply yes. And that's because we want to ensure the safety of the individuals that are around our youth. We want to ensure the safety, of the individuals that we're putting in roles and responsibilities. So it's important to go through all of those. It's required to go through all of those, but there are requirements. We don't just pull them out of the air and say, folks in Nueces County, this is what we're doing because Kyle came up with it. Those are just requirements that we follow to ensure the guidelines set forth by Texas 4-H. And in doing this, we view y'all as the key ingredient to your club's success. And I definitely believe that in Nueces County. I believe it in across the district. Those club managers, the role you fill is extremely important. You're a role model that you set in terms of the examples and leadership with both adults and youth as well. And as I kind of hit some bullet points here again, if y'all have got questions, ask along, but I'm just kind of laying kind of some of this out as terms of, the responsibilities. But anyway, and as far as a role model, you're setting examples, and it is imperative that you provide leadership to volunteers that are in your club. And those are parents that may want to help but don't know how. It serves as a recruitment tool. It serves as growth for projects and experiences, because there's going to be folks that know more about a subject matter than you do, but unless you ask for help, you reach out, you're not going to know that. And so we don't expect for you to be the know-all for everything, but you also have got to be willing to accept help and help allow that club to flourish and grow. And it really affects the growth of projects and experiences. And ultimately, at the end of the day, it's about time. It's about allowing you to have a little more freedom, a little more time management, and less burden on you if you're just willing to reach out and ask for help from those in the club, those parents and whatnot. And kind of the bullet point statement that I end with here in roles and responsibilities on this first slide is you are ultimately a facilitator. You facilitate that club and what goes on, the happenings and goings, but you can't be a dictator. You can't tell everyone what to do and how to do it. It's a non-productive. It's not good in terms of being able to have that growth and development and having just a good time in that club. Okay, we'll move on to the next slide. Again, pulling some more out of this club management guide. One thing that's very important to us as agents is that you are aware of and the ins and outs, if you will, or be very familiar with Texas 4-H. You got to know about Texas 4-H program. You need to know about Texas AgriLife Extension. That's kind of like if I was asked to go run Boy Scouts or whatnot or another group and I didn't know anything about it, it's not going to do me any good. It's not going to do the group any good to be trying to run something. And so the same with club management. You've got to learn about the Texas 4-H program, and it may be very simple. You don't have to be training to be a county agent by any means, but you got to know about just the basics of the 4-H program and also the structure of AgriLife Extension. And both of those you will gain a lot of knowledge from if you visit with your county agent and learn a little bit about that. The duties that are expected of y'all as club managers, and these are just some highlights I'm kind of summarizing because each county is going to be a little different when it comes to expectations, especially if it's a project club that is like a shooting sports. There's going to be some variations, but just kind of a balance across the board. You're the direct link between your club and that county extension office. As I talked about being a facilitator, you're that common ground that is taking information and going back to the club. Another expectation is you're going to have to charter annually. And I know that that's kind of where we're at right now. Some clubs have gotten them in and some have not. I've heard from a few from my clubs in my county, and it's got to get done. It is required. It is a process, and it's got to get done. And so that's required of you as a club manager is you've got to take that on and get that documentation done annually. You want to manage your meetings. You don't want to run those meetings and be in charge of everything. You've got to delegate, allow those kids to run a meeting, give them some responsibilities and some roles. And you also want to maintain some positive vibes, be positive, and that includes recognition. And I'm not necessarily talking about recognition like at a 4-H banquet. It's always good to promote that, but you can do some subtle recognitions in your club to recognize 4-H members for little things here or there. It makes them feel good. It makes them want to come back. And the last thing on roles and responsibilities for this page here is time requirements. It's a year-round commitment. We do appreciate you being a volunteer, but it is a year-round commitment. The 4-H year runs September 1 through August 31st. We're fixing to wind down a 1 year and start a new one. But you've got to be willing to make that time commitment. And if you only want to have a few months out of the year just to manage for that county show, maybe be a volunteer, but don't be the club manager, because it really limits the ability for youth and adults to have the great rounded 4-H experience. And then also, we do it in Nueces County, and a lot of other counties do it as well, but you want to meet annually with your club manager. You want to make sure that you're going down the right path, you're getting the guidance and the feedback from them. And again, that's stabilizing that relationship with them and a good line of communication. And as we conclude with the roles and responsibilities on this last slide here, you want to make sure that you involve youth members. And I referenced that about running meetings. Sometimes kids have great ideas and sometimes they maybe not be the best, but it's a learning process for them. And you've got to allow them to have that learning process. Kids are not scared to fail so long as they can work at it to improve. And so that's, you know, in my county, there's been a few clubs that adults were kind of leading everything as I got here a few years back. And a great example is one club in general they were very young kids, and they wanted those kids to be okay and not be put on the spot. And so they would kind of help them do everything. And I finally challenged them just to let those kids run that meeting, even if it wasn't to the best of their ability, just give them a chance. And that club has flourished. They're really doing well. Those young kids had a lot of fun. And so ultimately, at the end of the day, as they walk out, that can be a recruitment tool because those kids are having a voice. And so whether it's, you know, we don't obviously their decision making has got to have some guidance, but even if it's not so good in terms of the perfect meeting being run, if they have some bobbles along the way, you still got to allow them to gain that learning process. And then the role of the county agent across the board is going to be providing support for yourself, providing trainings, annual trainings or quarterly trainings. It could be a monthly training, different ones. They also are responsible on the county level to recognize members and adults at banquets or whatnot. And then lastly there, you can see the CEA, which is the county extension agent role, is not an expectation to do all of that stuff, but it's actually important for them to provide guidance and teamwork for you. So they're going to provide you guidance. They're not going to do all the trainings and all the support. They're not going to do all of that. They're going to help facilitate that and help amongst others in the county. So it's not all on the county agent's lap, but that's important that the CEA's role comes to play and help support you to be successful. As I mentioned a little while ago, I guess I'll pause just a second, make sure no one's got any questions. Meredith or anybody, y'all haven't show any questions anywhere? Okay, we're going to move in.
Answer them in the text chat. Thanks.
Oh, okay, great. All right. And again, I'm going to reference a website here in a minute that will provide y'all where to access like that document and some others that I talk about. But it's extremely important. New members are kind of our tomorrow, if you will. They're our foundation. As we recruit them and bring them in, we don't want one-hit wonders. And so it's extremely important to include them as they come in. Just like this evening, I'll use an example. I've got a club manager on here, so I'll just use, her name is Flo East. If Flo is part of my program in my county, and I invited all the other club managers but her to attend this evening, she'd have felt left out. And that's the same thing with kids, is we don't want to make them feel left out. We want to be able to remember that we're not going to we don't necessarily have to coddle them, but we want to make sure that everybody's included. And the new members are important because they really probably don't know a whole lot of people, and they especially don't know the dynamics of the club and the layout. So it's really important to find ways to subtly or nicely include them and make them feel like they belong, because you will get them to come back. There's nothing worse than coming to one meeting, they go away, and then they say, I don't want to be part of 4-H anymore. And these are just, I'm not going to read every bit of it, but that's a definition of inclusion. Some examples that you can find ways to include is to kind of find some commonality, whether it's backgrounds, social or status or abilities. But y'all's biggest asset, I will tell you all, in terms of inclusion and trying to help that, is your club officers. And so the question is, you know, whose role is it as an officer to welcome? Who's bringing them in and you know, welcoming them and greeting them and all that kind of stuff? And I'll tell you that this slide here lays it out for me quite well, as I talk to my club managers and we work together to welcome new members. It's really every club officer's role. Now, you may rotate them month to month and ask this one and the next one to be the greeter, but realistically, they as a slate of officers need to be their influence and the stature that they hold in that role is listed right there on that slide. They're role models just like you are for the club. They have quite a bit of influence over others. They were elected, so they're in this high-level leadership role. They set the stage for success in the meetings. Basically, that's why you've got to let them run the meeting. They got to be able to run that meeting and have some success from start to finish. And they have a definite influence on the return of new members. And so those new members being greeted at the beginning and then maybe at the end have some kind of meet and greet with them. But it's paramount that y'all find ways to welcome those new members to be able to retain them. Okay. And these are just 4 points I want to make about getting them to continue to come back and those new members. First impressions are huge, positive attitudes, meeting with a purpose. We all want to have meetings that sometimes we get a little tired and we just have a quick meeting. We're in and out in 5 minutes. Have a purpose with your meeting. Make sure you have a game or some kind of icebreaker, and then also have a balance. Don't just go in, have a meeting and leave. You got to add some fun to it, some energy to it, so that there's just a balance between from start to finish. And we'll cover some things about a meeting here in a little bit. And these are kind of strategies or areas that really will help emphasize inclusion. Again, I'm not going to go through every one of them, but communication, accessibility, don't put labels on. Those are all the new folks, those kind of things. You don't want to, push them away. But make sure, I like the one on here that says seek help. They're going to want some help. And so finding a way to be able to provide help is always good as well. Okay, I love this. I love this phrase. An involved 4-H'er is a happy 4-H'er. A happy 4-H'er is a lifetime 4-H'er. I love that. That's so awesome. That's great. And it really is kind of just hits the nail on the head as we talk about that. Okay, real quickly, I'm going to cover club meeting resources, and then that will be going on to someone else. On this slide here, down at the very bottom under that club meeting resources, there's a link there that's a lighter color, so it's not standing out too much, so my apologies. But Texas 4-H, or texas4-h.tamu.edu, and then /management. Had that document of the club management responsibilities. It also has all the documents that fall under these 4 bullet statements, which are really, they are resources for y'all. If you've never been on, there was an old resource called Club Ed. It's been revamped and it's just under the 4-H management tab. But planning to strengthen club effectiveness, club officer trainings, monthly meeting topics, and installation of officers or installation ceremonies. These are 4 areas that are really kind of common and important in my neck of the woods. These are things that there's a bunch of different items that fall under each one of those that you can click on and find. Club officer training, I do it on the county level. A lot of counties do, but you could also do one at the club level. Trying to come up with topics sometimes are hard. So these are just helpful resources for you to be able to have a very effective and productive meeting. All right, I'll kick it up.
Perfect. All right, so here, this is just 4 parts kind of a meeting. So as you start planning your meeting, or maybe you look back at your meetings from last year, you really want the 4 parts in there. We did talk about the different structure of a 4-H meeting at our lockdown leadership with the kids, or with the 4-H members last week. And you really want to try to make sure your meetings run about an hour in length. You don't want them too short, because then it's almost like, why did I come to the meeting? But you don't want them to be, 2 hours long where it's dragging out. So I like to kind of say about an hour is a great time frame for a meeting from start to finish. And again, you want to have your
Yes. I don't know who's trying to take control. This is Shelley from Victoria. But I'm still not seeing the slides. I saw when the gentleman did it, but now I don't see the slides. But something popped up on my screen that tells me slide 1 of 35 for me to take control to presenter. And I can change the slides on my screen.
Kayla, I'm going to just advance for you.
Okay. You may keep going.
It was there a second ago as Shelly started to talk, it was popped up, but now it's gone. So
There we go. We're back.
We're back in business.
Yes.
In business.
Thank you.
Okay. Not sure what's happening. So again, these are the 4 parts of a meeting. You want your inspiration to be about 5 minutes, and we'll go and dig a little bit deeper on what the different parts are, what's in the different parts. You have your business meeting. You want it to be about 15 or 20 minutes. Program about 15, 20 minutes, and then your recreation, you can wrap it out with about 20 minutes. And again, if you add the majority of the time, you may get a little bit over an hour, but we really like to keep it to be about an hour for our club meetings. And so here's kind of what the agenda looks like. Your first part is going to be your inspiration, which includes your call to order, your pledges, inspiration, and your icebreaker. And I really like to make sure that your club officers really have some leadership within that meeting. And so I know I make my council officers come up with the icebreaker, come up with the inspiration. So again, we want our kids to be leading the meetings. We want our 4-H officers to really be leading the meetings. And so this is a great way to give them that responsibility to come up with an icebreaker, to come up with an inspiration. And we just got finished with record books. And so this is also another opportunity to give those kids or give those 4-H members a leadership opportunity to put in their record book that they led different icebreakers, they led different inspirations. So instead of just being an officer, they can really put down what kind of leadership roles or what kind of leadership responsibilities that they participated in. And so again, your icebreaker is just kind of the start or sets the stage for the meeting. And younger members first feel the spirit of belonging when they see flags, banners, and anything else 4-H related. So we talked about really making kids want to be involved. And so this is a great way. So if you start off with a really strong inspiration, which again includes your call to order, pledges, icebreaker, and inspiration, kids are going to really feel excited about being at the meeting. They're going to feel that this is a meeting that's about to take place, and it just makes them feel part of the 4-H program. So your next section is going to be your business section. And so again, this may be more of your longer section, just depending on what you need to cover. And that will include roll call, introduction of guests and new members. And again, like Kyle mentioned, inclusion, reading and approval of minutes, any type of reports, which could be activity reports, officer reports, committee reports, leader club reports, anything that relates to what the kids maybe be doing related to a report. And so when we talk about roll call, I like to be creative and don't just say here or present. Try to come up with fun ways that kids can answer, you know, what was your favorite color? What's your favorite 4-H project? Or what did you have for lunch? Or something like that. So they can kind of be a little bit more creative when they answer the roll call. Then, like we mentioned, the introduction of guests and new members, the kind of the inclusion part, we want to make sure that they feel welcomed. If they're sitting in the back and nobody even calls on them or nobody mentions that they're there, they're probably not going to come back. We're going to have that one-hit wonder. They came to a meeting, nobody talked to them, nobody acknowledged them, and so they're probably not going to come back. So we want to make sure that we are introducing our guests and our new members. And then we have reading and approval of minutes, and then any type of reports. And I really like this time for kids to stand up and tell what they've been doing the past month, whether they've been going to shows or participating in different contests. And so they can really highlight what they've been doing and just be very proud of the different things that they've been participating in. And then also if there's any other standing committee or special committee reports, maybe a banquet committee or community service project, this is a chance for them to give their reports during this section or during the business section. And then also, of course, unfinished and new business also will take place here. And that could be, are we voting on a community service project, or are we talking about a summer party, or are we going to do a fundraiser? And this is all the chance for that to take place during the business portion. And sometimes your business portion may be very small, depending on the time of the year when you may not have a lot going on. But again, there may be a lot of other things that you can incorporate into that business, like the different reports. And then the program section, that should be about 15 to 20 minutes. And this program, the program is a very important part of the 4-H club meeting, and it should be interesting to all club members. What I like to tell my club managers at the very beginning of the 4-H year, which is going to be starting up in September, is poll the kids or ask the kids what type of programs they want to learn about. And so if not a single one of them says that they want to learn about rabbits, and you have someone come and talk about rabbits, that may not be that interesting to all the kids. I mean, of course, we want them to learn new things, but we want to see what kind of interests them. And so try to find out what they want to learn. Maybe they all want to learn about the dog project. And so that would be a great chance to get somebody to come in and talk about a new project. I also have a club that each month the kid is responsible, or one of the 4-H members is responsible for a program. And so they kind of give a program, like an educational presentation over their project, or maybe they are in charge of inviting somebody to come in and speak. And so that's a chance, another opportunity for leadership for those kids to put in their record book or to participate in. But we really want to make sure that we have an educational program during our 4-H meeting, because that's a part of the meeting is the educational component. And if we just come to the meetings, we talk about new business and do just a few things, and our meetings are 20 minutes long, it's kind of almost a waste of time sometimes for families to drive all the way in town, especially if they have a nice little commute. So make sure it's worthwhile, make sure they're learning things, and don't think as a club manager that you're responsible for always getting the program. Again, like I mentioned, have some of those older 4-H members take control, or take the reign and let them find somebody to do the program, or let them do the program. Because they're always also looking for ways to talk about their project, or talk about some of their contests that they're about to prepare for. And so this is a great way to let them get in front and talk, or do their educational presentation, or practice something that they've been working really hard on. And then, of course, it'll educate some of the younger 4-H members. And then you round out with recreation. And this is the fun part of a meeting. We want to make sure that we're ending the meetings on a high note to encourage members to return for the next meeting. And so this could be something fun. It could be refreshments. Everyone loves refreshments. And, you know, pre-COVID, you were kind of left to do whatever you wanted with refreshments. But if you are having refreshments now during COVID, you need to make sure that you follow the guidelines, which I think Meredith or someone's going to talk about here in a minute, about what you can and cannot do related to food. So just kind of keep that in mind as you bring refreshments in, or as somebody brings refreshments in, that there is some restrictions on that. But you want to round out your meeting with a fun activity or something fun to do, whether it's a quick little game, or whether it's refreshments, anything that kind of ends on a high note to encourage members to return for the next meeting. And then, of course, the last part of it is adjourn. I'm on the slide before, Meredith, if you'll go to the slide before. I don't think I have control.
Kayla, which slide are you looking for?
The structure of a meeting.
That one? It's up.
Oh, is it up? Okay, I can't see what's up or not, other than what's
Okay.
up on mine. At the very bottom, and I'm going to put this link in the text chat. This is enhancing the club experience. It's planning the monthly 4-H club meetings. This is the same thing that Kyle kind of showed you, the format. This is gives you an idea of exactly what should go in the meetings, the different parts, and what kind of goes in each part. So it'll kind of give you a little guide as you start preparing your 4-H meetings. And then there's also a planning workshop in the back of this that you can kind of use as a check sheet as you go along during your 4-H year. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll share this in the text chat. And if you have any questions, please let me know.
All right, so I failed to introduce Kayla, but that was Miss Kayla Casper. She's our county extension agent for 4-H youth development in Fayette County. And Kayla is one of our most tenured agents when it comes to the 4-H youth development program in the district right now. And so we're thankful to have that knowledge and expertise to be able to share that with you tonight. And so what we're going to do now is I'm actually going to go back and we're going to talk a little bit about project exploration and project leaders and what that means. I think some people get confused between what a club manager is and what a project leader is, and maybe the differences between our project-based clubs and our community-based clubs. And so Ms. Natalie Konesic is our county extension agent for family community health, and she also serves as the 4-H coordinator in Lavaca County. Natalie's fairly new to us in extension in District 11. However, she has been a 4-H volunteer and was a county extension agent in previous years. And so she has a wealth of knowledge that she brings to the table. And so, Natalie, I'm going to turn it over to you and I'll advance your slides for you.
Thanks, Meredith. Can y'all hear me okay? I'm on my phone.
Your first slide's up, Natalie.
Okay, thanks. It was delayed on my phone, so I wasn't sure. So we talked about, Kyle at the beginning talked about, what it looks like to be the club manager. And as we were talking about planning this, one of the things that came up was, as Meredith was saying, the difference in projects and activities and the difference in project leaders and activity leaders. And so when you're thinking about what 4-H is and someone comes and asks you or your kids what they do in 4-H, what I see a lot of times is people are talking about their specific event or their specific activity, but they're not necessarily talking about their project and the whole umbrella. So with each 4-H year, you want to encourage your 4-Hers to really look at the projects and pick at least one project. If they're not completing a project, they're really not an active 4-H member. And so in order to get more involved and to learn what they want to do, they need to set goals and work towards those resources. And so really encouraging them to plan, not just to show up for whatever's planned for them, but to plan themselves. And then determine what it is that they want to learn. A project, in order for a project to be a project, you've got to have at least 6 30-minute lessons or activities that meet those goals and objectives that they've planned or that you've planned for them. And in doing so, we encourage you to consider, what are those H's? What do they stand for in 4-H? Our head, our heart, our hands, our health. How can we use our projects to help others? And how can we help others through leadership and community service? So that for me, a lot of times is a way I can frame it that my kids understand, is by telling them, really think about when you say that pledge and you use the 4-H pledge with the head, the heart, the hands, and the health, and how am I reaching my community, then it starts to make sense to them that they're doing more than just reciting the pledge at the beginning of a meeting. And then an important part of projects that a lot of people don't realize is that in order for it to be a project, you've got to show it in some way. And showing it is not just the stock show or the county fair. Showing it is being able to tell others about it. Look for exhibitions, look for opportunities in social media, look for places to display things. Look for opportunities to speak about your 4-H experience to audiences. Those are the kinds of things that you can tell your 4-Hers as examples for how to show what they're doing. Especially this year, I had 4-Hers in my own office, and then I read it in record books, 4-Hers who reported that they didn't feel like they had a project because they didn't get to show their animal or they didn't get to go to their district contest of some kind. And so, but there's other ways that we can guide them and direct them to where they're still exhibiting without it being that one event or that one contest that they have always known to be. So be creative and be flexible. Okay, go on to the next slide if you would, Meredith. On the club management website, there's a document that's called the 4-H project planning sheet. And I really like using this in a couple of different ways. One, as a project leader, I would use it at the beginning of my project group to help me plan what I was going to do with the kids and who was going to help me, because you don't ever want to take the load for anything that you're doing all on your own. The more people and the more resources that you can involve, then the better experience it is for everybody, not just because the load is lifted off of you, but also because the more people involved, the more ideas are generated and the more opportunities come from it. So take the time to plan a little bit in ahead. Then also, I've used these, passing them out to the members in my club and had them use them as a journal piece to help them document what they wanted to do and when they did it for whatever specific project they were doing. And you'll notice that piece there is, again, for leadership, community service, and how they exhibited their work. And if they take the time to document, then at the end of the year, they have something to show that says, I really did do this, and this is when I did it and how I did it. And so for those that are completing record books, it's an excellent tool to keep on hand. Okay, next slide. So I wanted to share the Texas 4-H project list and show this list is actually, when you look at the title of the document, and this is also found on the 4-H website, it's called the Big Five because these are the main areas that our curriculum falls under. And so you've got agriculture and livestock, family and community health, natural resources, leadership and citizenship, and then STEM, the science, technology, engineering, and math. There is something for everyone in 4-H. Over the years, I've heard lots of people say, well, I can't be in 4-H because I don't want to have to show an animal, or I can't show an animal. Dating myself, I'll share that, you know, we used to say, well, 4-H is more than just cows, sows, and plows. And so while our animal projects are certainly worthy and valuable projects to have, also know that there's a whole group of kids out there that may not be your animal exhibitors, that there's opportunities for them in 4-H as well. And so this project list is a great go-to list because there is curriculum developed to help guide somebody. You don't have to be the expert. The curriculum guides are so helpful. And so take time with your club members to give them this list. When they go online and they enroll, they may go ahead and click on one or two things that are familiar to them. But I like to take this list to that first club meeting and have each of them take a copy of it and then report back to me what it is that they're interested in and what is it that they really want to do in 4-H. Okay, so we can move on to the next one. I've talked a lot about the 4-H website, and I'm sure Kayla and Kyle probably did too while I was kicked off, but I wanted to share the 4-H website page that's specific to the Explore guides and the curriculum resources. So if you go to the 4-H website and you type in the search box resources, it will take you to this page, and you'll see on that right-hand side the link to the Explore guides. And from there, that list that's listed below was just a snippet from that page, but all of the curriculum pieces that have been created in Texas to support our kiddos are all loaded in there and ready to be used. And so you can access them at times when you need them, take pieces, take the whole. All of them start with their goals and objectives and why the project is important, and are just wonderful, wonderful resources to you and to your project leaders and your activity leaders. And so talking about project leaders and activity leaders, that takes us to this next slide. So there's a difference in project leaders and activity leaders, and a difference in projects and activities. And so once we can keep in our mind straight which one is which, then it makes sense. But I like to, at my first meeting of the year, I like to find out who all of my parents are and get to know them, especially if they're new to the club, because that is where we find our resources and the strength in numbers that you can have if you engage the other adults that are in your, that are the parents and guardians and grandparents and aunts and uncles to your club members, because some will be great assets to you and willing to be able to lead one or two specific activities. Maybe somebody has a drama background and really would like to see your kids doing a Share the Fun. They would be an activity leader. Maybe someone has a background in journalism or in marketing. They may be the perfect fit to be a photography leader. And so taking the time to get to know your families and what their interests are is a really big help to the process that you have ahead of you, because being a club manager does not mean that you have to do everything yourself. Kyle said, don't be a dictator, you're a facilitator, and that is 100% the truth. You want to make sure that you're looking for other people to help you and support you. And in all honesty, if you're there as the club manager, all of those people who are willing to bring their kids to your club meeting should be willing to carry their part too and be a part of the process. And so it's how you pitch it to them. Somebody who doesn't want a long-term commitment may be more willing to do an activity leader role. Somebody who's willing to see something from the beginning to the end and they want that sense of accomplishment, those people are going to be your project leaders. And so that's kind of the difference in the two. And that's what I've got.
Natalie, thanks so much. And so now we're going to actually jump to and talk a little bit about some financial management. And I'm going to cover this section for you because a lot of the rules that we ask you to follow as a club manager are not set forth by your county extension agent, but rather by the Texas 4-H program as a whole. And so being a member of Texas 4-H faculty, I can tell you that I've sat on numerous committees to make sure that we are really doing our best to protect our kids and our clubs and you as volunteers. And so the checks and balances that we have in place are not, I can promise you, are not because I want to look at more paperwork. It's because we need to make sure that we have a true checks and balances in place, because ultimately we are a state-funded agency. Any and all 4-H club records are subject to the Open Records Act. And so we want to make sure that when we present, that we are always putting our best foot forward, which is why we ask for written documentation and we ask for written records to be kept. So in the guide, in the Texas 4-H financial management guide, and we'll drop this link in the chat also, there's a lengthy document that explains all of this, but these are some of the high points that we wanted to make sure and hit to make sure that you understand things about 4-H clubs. The first thing is that 4-H clubs are not sales tax exempt. Clubs are income tax exempt. You receive an income tax exemption because of the 501c3 status that is applied for on behalf of Texas 4-H Inc. Texas sales tax is separate from income tax. So sales tax is state mandated or controlled rather by the Texas State Comptroller. Income tax, federal income tax is mandated, if you will, by IRS. And so we have two separate taxing entities. And so it's really important that you understand the difference between those. When we have bank accounts or any financial accounts, we want you to use the club EIN, your federal income tax number, for your bank accounts. We never want you to use your individual Social Security numbers. All accounts require 2 signatures, at least one youth signature, which we recommend is the club treasurer on the account, and one adult signature, which can be the club manager if the 2 do not reside in the same household. Bank statements are to be sent to the county extension office. It is a best practice that all addresses for all accounts use the county extension office address. And so I'll explain this a little bit because it happened when I first started in this position. But we had a club manager from one of our counties pass away unexpectedly. And suddenly we didn't know how to get our hands on any of the records. We couldn't get our hands on any of the financial accounts or anything like that. And so it made it extremely difficult for us to be able to regain control of that club and keep the club moving forward. And so this is why we require that all bank statements be sent to the county extension office. All accounts should be reconciled monthly. If you are using an online payment system, you are allowed one per club. So you have one PayPal account or one Venmo account or one, oh gosh, there's so many out there, but you can have one. You cannot have one of each. You have one electronic online payment system account. And then county extension faculty or your county extension agent must approve any fundraising efforts done in the name of the 4-H program. A lot of times this is a very informal process, but ultimately at the end of the day, your county extension agent is the CEO for that county 4-H program. So imagine your child doing something without you knowing about it, and then it getting you in some hot water, right? And so a lot of times this is what can happen with our 4-H clubs if we don't maintain that open line of communication. And so that's why we ask that you have any fundraising efforts are approved by the county extension office in whatever process that your specific county extension office has. Okay, so when we asked you, when you registered for this event, we asked very specifically what questions you had, and a lot of you were wondering, how do we move forward in today's day and times? How do we move forward with COVID-19 on our heels? And so we're going to talk a little bit about how do we move forward during a pandemic. I can tell you this has forced us to think very openly about what of the 4-H program looks like and what how we reach kids and what our purpose is. And so moving forward during a pandemic, we are going to ask that you stay in constant contact with your county extension agents. Each county extension agent receives updates from our Texas A&M AgriLife Administration and local health authorities, along with a county commissioner's court, to advise our program on how they would like us to move forward. So really and truthfully, there's two entities that we have to make sure we're okay with, and that's Texas A&M AgriLife Extension and our county commissioner's court. And so we have specific protocol that's been set for each county office to follow, along with all of our programs. The 4-H program does fall within that. And so we are responsible for maintaining the safety of our kids and our parents and volunteers during this time. We are an educational entity and we are not a business. And so a lot of these government mandates that we've seen Governor Abbott release do not apply to the 4-H program as we hear it. We are more educational in nature than we are business in nature, although we do operate some things like a business. And so we really have to kind of wade through what those regulations and mandates look like when they are released. And so please understand that, and I know you know, and you wouldn't want to put anybody in harm's way either, but safety is our #1 priority. And so at 4-H club meetings, if you are going to be having face-to-face events, face coverings must be worn at all times. Hand sanitizer must be present and social distancing must be engaged. And so what this means is we can have families sit together, but kids aren't allowed to go sit with their friends. And families need to sit 6 feet apart. Yes, I understand that it takes away some of the fun, right? Some of the fun of like sitting with your friends at a 4-H club meeting. But ultimately, we know that those family groups have stayed a little isolated or more isolated to their family group. And so we want to make sure that we are protecting everybody when they come to those meetings. And so there is a document called a preparedness plan. All of you should have received a copy of it from your county extension agent. And so what we're asking is that these do not have to be submitted for a club meeting. And I say a club meeting, somewhere around 20 to 30 kids, or 20 to 30 people, kids and adults included. But we are really encouraging you to walk through that preparedness plan, and it needs to be submitted to your county extension agent. We will not require one each month. However, we will be able to just have one for the year, just so that we know that you've thought about what we need to do to be safe. And so we have a couple of questions in here, and I want to make sure to answer those. The first question is, what do we do with groups, with large groups with 50 or more members? And so we're going to ask that you specifically talk to your county extension agent about what strategies they have in place. This may mean that you have 2 separate meetings. It may mean limiting the number of individuals that come to the meeting. And so you have one kid, you limit it to 1 kid and 1 parent. There's things that we can implement in place, but I ask that you make sure you communicate with your county extension agent and figure out what strategies they have in their toolkit. We do not have a Zoom account for each of you to have virtual club meetings. You can get a free Zoom account, if you will. If you need to host a virtual meeting, we have a license for Microsoft Teams. Your county extension agent has a personal license for that, and they can set up a meeting for you on Microsoft Teams. County extension offices do have limited PPE available, which is sanitizer and face masks. However, we do require that every individual bring their own face masks, and you can request some hand sanitizer and sanitizing wipes from the county extension office. Jennifer, you've asked, will the kids be required to attend so many meetings a year to show? Unfortunately, we can't answer that. That is a question for your show board. That is not a 4-H rule. That is a livestock or fair association rule. And so you'll need to discuss that with them. So we're going to move forward a little bit. And we're going to talk a little bit about the calendar and what that looks like. And so I'm actually really happy to have Candace Muller on with us tonight. Candace is the county extension agent for Ag and Natural Resources in Refugio County. And I'll be honest, y'all, in Refugio County, she is a one-man show. She does everything. She does all of her row crop education. She leads our 4-H program there. She answers some health and nutrition questions when they come in. She also has a coworker, but who covers multiple counties. But Candace really is the county extension agent for Ag and Natural Resources in Refugio County. And so she has the knowledge, a wealth of knowledge in her tenure with us. I'm thinking she hit 4 years maybe recently. And so Candace, are you available?
Yes. Can y'all hear me?
We sure can.
Okay. Just like Natalie, we're having an area-wide outage on the internet too, so I got kicked off for a little bit. But so keeping up with our calendar throughout our 4-H year is probably the most important aspect, especially when we're getting ready to go to meetings, and especially as club managers, we want to be able to help all of our members know what's going on at our county level, our district level, and at our state level. Because like Natalie talked about earlier, there's literally a project for anyone. So along with each one of those projects underneath the Big Five, there's some sort of activities that go along with that. There can be contests, there can be all kinds of things that go on with each one of those projects. So we have a lot of dates that are thrown our way. And it's something that we all try to keep up with, especially when we have a lot going on. Like Meredith said, I do all of the ag programming and all the 4-H programming. So calendars tend to be my best friend. So before all of this started, I was the traditional paper planner. Since COVID has hit and we were working from home for a while, I've moved more towards an online calendar, but I still keep my paper calendar as a backup just because technology is not my friend a lot of times, and I'm scared to lose everything that's on my calendar. So when I say planners are your best friend, I mean it. It's the easiest way for us to keep up with what's going on in our 4-H world. So find whatever size works best for you and just carry it with you to 4-H meetings and events. I know some of my club managers keep theirs on them at all times because I'll be on the phone with them and they're writing it down when they're in the car. So that planner is very important, especially for your first 4-H meeting, because at that meeting, you're going to be able to talk to your members about what's going on through the first part of the year. And there's a lot of things happening in the fall. We have contests, we have food show and food challenge, we have activity leaders that are leading multiple activities in the county. And so I recommend that you meet with your county extension agent before the new 4-H year starts, because there are dates and deadlines that are specific to your county. So major show validations are coming up in the fall. So every county has a different date and location for those. When we have county contests, like our food show contest, those are all different depending on each county's calendar. So I just recommend that you meet with your county extension agent. If they send out newsletters, make sure that you're writing that information down as you get it from your emails. And then, like Kyle had mentioned earlier, your county extension agent is your most important contact point within the county, and it's good to have a good relationship with them. So also the District 11 4-H website, that I'm sure they'll put the link to that. Oh, Kayla already did put the link to that in the chat box. So if y'all go on the District 11 4-H website, there's y'all can check that out. There's a blog, there's all kinds of stuff on there, but there is a link that says events and contests. And so that'll let you know our district contests that are offered. And then you can see when those will take place, and then check back with your county extension agent to see when your county qualifying contests will be. So just some things that you can schedule throughout the year with your officers is just having an officer meeting just to get everybody on the same page. You can talk about service projects. Like Kayla said, have your officers plan what programs are going on, what recreation you're doing. So all in all, it's just good to keep that calendar with you because you're going to have a lot of dates thrown at you through the year. And just if you have any questions on anything, make sure you stay in contact with your county extension agent. So that's all I have on this one, Meredith. So we can hop on to the next one.
Okay, so Candace, thanks so much, and thanks for really emphasizing the importance of a calendar. If you don't have a club calendar or a county calendar, I would encourage you to ask your county extension agent about one. But we have all of those resources available for you on the District 11 4-H website. And so now we're going to I want to open it up, and now's the time for you to talk and share ideas with us. And so we're going to utilize the text chat. If you can unmute your mic, you can and talk, you can. But we're going to talk about some things that really work in other clubs. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to introduce Denise Grisham. Denise is a county extension agent for 4-H youth development in Matagorda County. And unfortunately, Denise has lost her voice thanks to our wonderful South Texas allergies. And so I'm going to present some of her information for her this evening and wish her all the best and hope she gets better. But we're going to talk about some new and innovative ideas to freshen up your club meetings. And so at some point in time, 4-Hers will need to know how to write a thank you note, either to a buyer, a donor, or for a gift. And so one of your programs or educational opportunities at your club meetings could be teaching them how to write a proper thank you note, how to address an envelope, and what a thank you note is supposed to entail or include. And so that's an idea that we've seen more this year come out, and I think that I love getting handwritten thank you notes. And so if we can encourage our youth to handwrite a thank you note, that's the most thoughtful thing we can do. And teaching them how to really include more than just one sentence in a thank you note. And so that's an educational opportunity that we can use. That's something that we have resources for, and so you don't have to reinvent the wheel, but there is resources available for that. So this idea actually came from Jackson County. And in one of our clubs in Jackson County, they do the Mary Method demonstration meeting. And so during this club meeting in the month of December, they do a round robin of method demonstrations. And so this not only teaches our kids how to give proper instructions, but it also gives them a chance to learn how to talk in front of people. And I know that for some, that's really difficult. And so they come by and listen to the demonstration, and you let them choose what they want to teach. Maybe they want to teach how to make a banana split or something fun, but it allows them to pick something that they're interested about and what they want to teach, and it allows for interaction. And so the last idea that we have is a welcome meeting for new 4-H families, and this actually came from Flower Bluff 4-H, Flower Bluff Padre Island 4-H, excuse me, in Nueces County. And so this club actually holds a special meeting specifically for new families at the conclusion of their regular meeting to answer any questions or concerns for families new to the 4-H program. This way, new families and faces don't get lost in this club. And this club, I know, is a rather large club, and so it helps kind of separate those things or those two groups out, and it provides a safe space for them to answer any questions. And so, what ideas or what are some things that y'all do that are really a lot of fun in your 4-H club meetings?
Meredith?
Yes.
Hi, this is Stacy from Flower Bluff Padre Island, and I was just going to expand upon what you were talking about. And one of the things we do, and we are a big club, is that when new members arrive, we try to have definitely either a club manager or an adult volunteer meet with them before the meetings. And we pull in our officers and we try to find out what the interests are of the new people. And sometimes they don't know, but sometimes they're very specific. Like, you know, I want to show this type of animal, or I want to work on photography or food or whatever it is. And then we try to pair them up with members or introduce them to members that have similar interests. So at least they have a contact person. And we try to also exchange information so that if they do have questions, they have someone to call or email. We make sure they sign up for our Facebook page and the county Facebook page. And we, introduce them. And then at the beginning of the year, we do try to have a separate little after meeting with them so that they can ask questions or anything like that. And we also sometimes provide special seating and make sure that they're paired up with someone so that they feel included. And one other thing, we when we introduce them, we also give them a little 4-H bracelet that we order through the 4-H mall just as a welcome gift.
Stacy, thanks for sharing that. I absolutely love that. And so I'm looking at the text chat, and Chloe Atwater said that in October they have a pumpkin decorating contest, and it's been fun for the past 3 years. And so they have this award certificates for the scariest pumpkin, funniest, most creative. Nicole shared that they had an ice cream social before their first meeting to hand out forms and get to know people and be able to network. And so that way they didn't have all of that at their first meeting also. And so Jillian asked, what's the 4-H Mall? The 4-H Mall is the national, it's National 4-H. It's been for years, it's been called the 4-H Mall. But it's Shop 4-H, and it's hosted by our National 4-H Council. And so it's where you can get a lot of like 4-H branded goodies, if you will. And so they have some pencils and different things like that. But they have a ton of stuff. And so we'll drop that link in the text chat for you. And this is actually the the site that we have $150 up for grabs tonight. So if I can get somebody to drop that in the text chat for me, I'd appreciate that. Actually, here we go, I got it. And so, do y'all have any other ideas? Somebody said something about a wreath making contest.
Meredith, this is Christy from Washington County.
Yes.
Hey, I just wanted to share that every year we have a county-wide 4-H meeting. We have, I think, 9 or 10 active community clubs in our county, and so we bring them all together. We meet at the school one time a year, and we allow all of the kids that are really involved in certain projects to create a booth about their projects. And in the gym, we have tables for each of those projects so that kids that are maybe not as familiar with the projects can go around and learn about them. And this gives a chance for the kids to gain leadership in sharing about the project and teaching the younger ones about what it offers. And then they get little marks on a card, and once they've, reached all the different project areas, they go into a drawing, and we have door prizes. And then we also do a countywide officer installation at that same club meeting where the kids are all installed as a group for each club as a county. So that's a lot of fun to bring all the kids together from different 4-H clubs within the county for one big ginormous countywide 4-H meeting. We have a photo booth, and it just gives a lot of leadership for the county council and things like that.
Great, thank you. Caroling at local nursing homes, a scavenger hunt.
In Victoria with our shotgun group, we have a really large group, and we do have several members that do not shoot, but their siblings do. So we have taken on, with our Clover kids and with our non-shooters, they are more of our community service. So while the other kids are out practicing, after our meeting, those kiddos get together and they create things that we then take to the nursing home. We put together stockings at Christmas and took them to the nursing home. They made centerpieces for the tables, collected socks. That's how we're getting those kiddos involved with our club, being that they're not truly a shotgun project.
That is awesome. I love that. Does anybody else want to share? Maybe y'all are reading the text chat and you see some things that you want to do. Is there anything else?